What is the best business model for consultants to use? Well, let's start off by talking about what a business model actually is. In Michael Lewis's book, The New Thing, he defined a business model as all it really meant was how you planned to make money. I don't think that's enough. I think we need to go beyond that. And to add a bit more to this, think about your business model as the structure and operation of how your business creates and delivers value and how it makes money. So as a consultant, there are several business models that are available to you. Each has been proven. You can find very successful consultants who use all these different models, but there is one model that I believe is the best. And I will explain that in just a few minutes. Each of the models that I'm going to share with you has their own pros and cons. So let's dive into them. The first is the solo consultant model. This is you, right? You're doing everything. And this is where a lot of consultants start. We see a lot of clients who transition from working in organizations, and when they want to get into consulting, they start themselves, right? That's the most common way that people start a consulting business. Most don't start with a lot of additional team members, right? You start small, it's just you, and you build from the ground up. Now, what does the solo consultant model look like, and what are the pros and cons? The structure is low volume, high value, which means you work with fewer clients because of capacity, right? You don't have a lot of capacity to take on a lot of clients if it's just you doing everything. But the value of each engagement with the client is significant, meaning it's higher value. Now, why is that the case? Well, because the solo model doesn't scale, right? It's low volume. You can't work with a lot of clients. Therefore, in order to create the level of income that most people want, the value of each of those engagements needs to be high. Now, how do you get it high is a whole other conversation. And if you're interested in a video on that, just let me know in the comments below and I'll go deeper into it. But one way that I'll just rattle off very quickly is through custom work, meaning that you are typically doing a lot of new things for each client. And so there's not a lot that you can reuse, right? Different situations, different potential problems you're solving, different approaches that you're using. And that's fine. But one of the greatest challenges, or we'll call it, cons or downsides of the solo consultant model is that it doesn't scale. Because it's just you doing everything, it's very hard to scale that business. In fact, I'll go as far as saying that if you are a solo consultant, you don't really have a business. And that might sound a bit shocking, and I certainly don't mean that to be disrespectful, but the reality is, if you think about it, if you're a solo consultant doing everything inside of the business that you have, it's not really a business because it can't operate without you. Right? It is 100% fully reliant on you. If you're sick, there's no business happening. If you want to go away on a holiday, there's no business happening. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? You might find the right balance that works for you, and that's fantastic. We have many clients who are solo consultants, and they've built up their businesses, in some cases, upwards to about $1 million per year as just a solo consultant. But it's very common to reach high six figures per year as a solo consultant, and that's totally okay. But again, there's no value to that entity because it relies 100% on you. If you are removed from that entity, there's nothing left. There might be some IP here and there, and you can do things with that, potentially licensing and so on. But generally, your business is not going to be a valuable business to a potential acquirer. And so what we see quite often is that people who start off as solo consultants, not wanting to build a team, not wanting to think about having to do, management and all those sorts of things, over time, they realize that they actually want to make a greater impact. They want to reach more people to be able to take on more clients. They also want to continue growing beyond the level that they're at. They want to have a business that has value, and maybe one day they might choose to sell it. And they also want to be able to have something that is running that they don't need to be doing everything inside, meaning that they can go off on a holiday, they can just focus on other things, they can take care of their health or hobbies. Or the other big one is that you can focus on the areas that you create the most value and not have to spend time on doing all the other things that you do as a solo consultant that you don't actually enjoy doing and you're not that good at. So that now takes us to our second business model, which is the firm model. And this is the classic approach that if you look at companies like McKinsey or Accenture or BCG or Bain, LEK, and all of the mid-market consulting firms as well as boutiques, many of them use the firm model. And there's two types of services or structures of how people deliver their expertise through the firm model. One is custom, so very similar to the solo approach, but the other is productized. And this has been increasing over the years, where more firms of all sizes are actually bringing more productized business models and approaches and service offerings to the market. And I'll talk more about productized in a moment, but just make a note of that. What does the firm look like? Well, it's all based on a team, right? You build a team, and the way that you scale and grow this is through the leverage as you have more people. And let's just talk about fees for a moment. Let's say that you're going to pay your team $10,000 for completing a specific part of a project. The client is paying you $40,000, right? So there's a $30,000 profit there. Of course, some of that is going to go to office, technology, all different kinds of things that you have. But the more people that you have and the more that they are out working, then the more margin you're essentially getting. So more people, right? More transaction equals more margin or more profit for you. So that's the firm model. And at the most basic level, the firm model is about more people and more seats or doing more work. And you're capturing the difference between what the client is paying you and what you have to pay your team. But this scales, right? It scales with people. The more people you have, obviously the more revenue you generate, and the margin, right, continues to grow, not necessarily percentage wise, but total dollar value wise over time. Now, in order to pull the firm model off effectively, right, you need systems, you need management. But the great thing about the firm model is that for you as the founder, as you get the right people in the right seats and you get the right systems in place, you actually do not need to be involved in things that you don't want to be involved. And so as you kind of put together this collective and hire, whether it's full-time, part-time, contractors, it can be in many different configurations, right? And this is also for smaller firms as well as larger firms. But as you get great people on board, you actually are freeing yourself up. You're buying back more of your time. And so you can now spend it in any way that you want, whether it's doing just work that you love, like maybe it's just talking to clients, maybe it's just doing certain parts of the delivery, maybe it's creating content, maybe it's training for a triathlon. All good. But now you have the time to do that because the business can move forward without your direct involvement. And then the final note about this, I'll say, is that it's sellable because it doesn't rely on you, and because the operation and business can continue moving forward and delivering. And the more that you build it up with the right people, you're actually not required for a lot of the day-to-day. That's a business that has value, and that's the kind of business that somebody may want to acquire. Now, the third model I've already talked about this briefly, but it's productized. And so there are some businesses that have a fully 100% productized offer, and so their whole model is productized. Now, productized is all about volume and value, meaning that you can work with a lot more clients, and the value of the productized offers. Back in the day, people used to think productized just meant like selling a course or selling some kind of a module or whatever it was, and they would think about it in terms of a low value, like maybe $1,000 or a few $1,000s. But today, there are productized offerings that consulting firms sell that are $50,000, $75,000, in some cases even more. So think about productized as, instead of creating new things all the time for each client, which is custom, right? You're taking the majority of what you're delivering for a client is the same as what you've delivered for somebody else. Of course, there will be some customization. So in general, right, the rule here is custom work, you might be 75% custom, 25% productized. Productized offer, a productized model, you're going to have 75% that is productized and maybe 25% that is customized. So there's a lot of value in that because it scales very well. You're very focused on who you provide this to. Of course, you can't just work with all kinds of different people because the productized offer needs to solve a specific problem. So it's who has that specific problem, what are you world class at delivering, what can you therefore create the most value, and you do that over and over and over. So with this, the productized model is also very powerful because it allows you to hire people that aren't as senior. They don't need the level of expertise and experience to be able to run your playbook or run the process or run the framework that is the productized offer. Because again, the productized offer, it's the same thing over and over again. You get better and better at it. You have great systems, documentation, right? SOPs, standard operating procedures that people can follow, almost like checklists they can follow to deliver that. And so with the firm model, in many situations, you do need to hire more senior people, especially if you want those people to be involved in the delivery of the actual work, right? You can't bring a junior person on and say, hey, go and work with our, one of our top clients to help them with consulting or help them to solve problems that we've never really solved before. Like if it's custom, you can't put a junior person into that environment without a lot of training. And so generally, with the firm model, you're bringing in more senior people who have that ability and that experience to think on their feet, to know how to analyze and get to the root cause and all the stuff that can create a lot of value in that custom kind of situation. But with productized, you don't need somebody who has that level of experience. They can follow the process, what the productized offer is. And so that's a great way to also, again, means that you don't have to be directly involved in all aspects of the business. Productized offers also generally have higher levels of profitability, because you can charge still very significant amounts of money because when you're creating great value, but again, your costs are lower because you're paying more junior people to run it. And there's a lot of efficiencies because you're using systems. And so you're not having to do custom work all the time. And what that also means is that you have a great ability to sell the business, right? It's productized. It doesn't revolve or rely solely on you. So those are the three most common consulting business models. Now the question is, which one is right for you, or which is the best model? And the reality is that all of them can be the best model. But I'm going to share something with you that is a little bit of a twist. The best consulting business model that I fully believe in is the hybrid. So the hybrid essentially takes the best of these three different business models. It mixes them together, right? And you create your own custom model. And that's why I believe it's the best. I do not believe when somebody just says solo is the best model, productized is the best model, this is the best model, because it depends on your situation. If you want to build a firm with a team, then that's going to be the best model for you, right? If you want to remain solo because there's certain life choices that you've made and you're okay with the downsides of that situation, but there's enough upside that it's still what you want to do, then fantastic. We have clients that have very successful solo consulting arrangements, or businesses or structures of how they do their work. We have clients who have built firms. We have clients that use productization. But what we see and what we really help our clients with is figuring out what is the right model for you. And quite often that will be a hybrid model. For example, you might have a firm, or you might be a solo consultant, and you decide to bring on a couple of additional people to help you to run a productized offering, right? Or you have a firm and you have a productized offering there. Or maybe you're a solo consultant, but you develop more productized offer in some format and you're delivering that, but because you're delivering it and it's productized, it doesn't require as much of your time as a custom project did. So each of these offers, or each of these business models, I should say, right, can be offered differently. They can be combined in different ways. And that's why I truly believe that it's the best business model. We see this very consistently with our clients. They might be a firm owner or a solo consultant, but we help them to productize. And that is really a big opportunity. So think about how can you bring in more productization into your firm, whether that is into the solo approach or into a firm model. The most important thing here is to figure out what is the best business model for you. Not for somebody else, not to what you see somebody else doing or what you hear is the best. It's ultimately about understanding what are your goals? What does success look like for you? Not only today, not only in a year from now, but down the road. What kind of impact do you want to have? How do you want to work? What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? How much money do you want to make? What do you want to be focused on doing every single day? These are just some of the questions that are important to explore, because when you have the answers for these and you can think through them, you can then arrive at what is the best business model for you. And what I want to hopefully help you to avoid is that you wake up one day, 3 years from now, and you realize that you're using the wrong business model, and that you in fact have sacrificed a lot in your personal life to try and create success as a consultant, but there could have been potentially a better model for you to create the kind of lifestyle and success that you want, which is why we really focus with many of our clients inside of our programs to talk about business models early on and to help them to figure out, where do you want to be? What does success look like for you? And then let's talk about what the different models are and how you can put these together to ultimately create what is right for you.